If you've listened to Taylor Swift's newest album, you may have heard her song, Eldest Daughter. If not, the gist is this. She sings about the pressure to seem strong, cool, and not let people down.
As eldest daughters, this resonated with Brierley and me. So we dove in. What is eldest daughter syndrome? How does it develop during childhood? And how does it shape your adulthood? Let's dive in.
Carolyn, I think that you know, but our listeners might not know, that Taylor Swift is very popular in my house.
Yes.
And I mean, and understandably so. Like, I have 2 daughters, 1 preteen, 1 teen. We have been listening to T Swift for years. I would have never predicted that a song on her newest album would inspire a podcast episode, though.
No, but it has. Well, I can't give all the credit to T Swift because we have bounced this idea around. We just didn't think it was maybe necessarily legit enough to do a whole episode. And then with her new album, she has this song titled Eldest Daughter.
Yes. And
so it's popping back up in social media feeds. And I started doing some digging and I'm like, holy cow, like the Cleveland Clinic has a article on eldest daughter syndrome. Like, a lot of people are writing about it. The American Psychological Association. So I was like, I think we need to dig in here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt that we are both eldest daughters, too.
Exactly.
And could really resonate with
Yes.
what we found.
Like, anecdotally, I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, this is totally a thing.
Oh,
like,
I had so much fun diving into
yes,
this.
like parentification, absolutely. Been there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important to say, like, when I was doing this research, like, some of this makes it sound like parents put a lot of pressure on these daughters to develop this syndrome. And I just want to say, like, I never felt any direct pressure from my mom or my parents to take on the responsibility that we're going to talk about. And I don't think you did either. So I don't want to blame parents for this.
I also think that the more I read about it, I think that there are some unintentional ways that parents, I mean, I can say I have been guilty of some of this.
Yeah.
That we kind of talk to and almost coach our eldest daughters around.
Well, I have told you, I catch myself. I have noticed at times that I treat Madeline different than Griffin.
Yeah.
And I mean, I catch myself, but I don't even realize I'm doing it at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, let's jump in. So, eldest daughter syndrome is kind of a term that's been coined on social media, but it describes the emotional pressure, high expectations, and sense of responsibilities that are often placed on the oldest female child in the family. So, you don't have to be the oldest child in the family, but the oldest female in the family.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think my mom is probably a great example. She's one of 6, and she has an older brother, but she's the oldest female. And researching for this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I see this totally.
Yeah.
In her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, and we can talk about it a little bit, but there is also this concept of eldest child syndrome. Not concept. Like that term also exists, because I, of course, was like, well, wait, what about eldest son syndrome? Is that a thing? But when you talk about eldest daughter, it is a little bit different from the way that they talk about eldest son or oldest child.
Yeah. The oldest child does take on more responsibility, I think, but it's even more pronounced in the oldest daughter.
And it expresses itself differently
in
the females than it does in males.
Yeah.
And we can get into that in a minute.
So
but
let's
really,
let's
dive into the eldest daughter, like the female.
Let's talk a little bit about birth order. You know, there's a lot of stereotypes, like the oldest gets stereotyped as the responsible, anxious, high-achieving one. Then you have your middle children who sometimes get stereotyped as like the forgotten and rebellious middle kids. And then the youngest child is like your charming, outgoing one.
Yeah. Sometimes more feral one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these stereotypes don't apply to every family, but research does suggest that birth order has at least a small, undeniable impact on how each child in a family develops.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So why do older children tend to have these stereotyped tendencies? And it's what I read. It's they develop these tendencies because they are often raised by first-time parents who don't know what they're doing, whose sole focus is keeping the child alive.
Yeah.
Which I get.
Yeah. I mean, and it says often is like often raised. I'm like, when are they not raised by first-time parents? I mean, yes, there are always exceptions to rules. But, I mean, I know, look, you and I both have 2 children. Like, the way the first one was raised versus the second.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it totally different in the first year of life.
Yeah. Well, and because that first child, the parents don't really know what they're doing, and they're just they tend to be more attentive and protective. Mm-hmm. Also says parents tend to have higher expectations for their eldest child, sometimes telling them to set a good example for younger siblings or to be on their best behavior because they're modeling to others around them.
This is where I find myself being guilty. Like, I am guilty of this. Yeah. Very guilty of this.
Because of this, they feel like the oldest child can feel like they are being held to a higher standard, which can groom the thought that within that child that there's little room for failure. Mm-hmm. So,
and more responsibility.
Yes.
And then does that, as females, then lead to more caretaking.
Yeah. So let's talk about stereotypes with younger children and why those often tend to be seen, those behaviors tend to be seen in the younger children or the children that are not the oldest. So the younger children tend to be more creative, outgoing, playful, independent because they grew up without the pressure of caring for everyone in their home. And I'm going to say, even if the oldest child was not verbally tasked with taking care of the younger children in the home, there is that older child, and maybe the older female, does feel some responsibility for taking care of the younger. So even if the parents did not direct them to, there is that pressure. Middle children can sometimes be overlooked by all that's happening with the older and younger, which can sometimes cause them to become more rebellious. And then parents tend to loosen the reins as the birth order continues. Mm-hmm. So you've got these stereotypes based on birth order. You've also got some gender stereotypes.
Yes.
And it stems kind of from the female's role in the home. And I read an article and they said even if there's an older son, a lot of childcare duties and household tasks have been assigned to women, and it trickles down to like the female children in the home. And it says if there's an older male child, potentially some of these typically perceived parental tasks are either being assigned to or assumed by the oldest female child in the home.
I mean, I have this very strong memory of when Etta was an infant and Holland was 3. And Etta was one of those, like, she was like a Velcro baby. Like, she had to be held all the time. And because I was alone a lot with both of them, I wore Etta, like, all the time. Mm-hmm. And so then Holland, on her own accord, would take one of her babies, dolls, and put it in a little carrier, and she wanted to wear her baby. So it's like that. In a way, this is like it's almost nature.
Yeah.
For them to model what their parents are doing. Yeah. And obviously like the same gender, parent. So this makes sense to me. Like you see what your mother is doing. If you are a girl, you're going to tend to mimic that. Yeah. In some capacity, even without being like verbally instructed to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're about to talk about 10 signs of eldest daughter syndrome, which are fascinating. But really quick, one of the there's a concept called parentification.
I find this one fascinating.
And they say this is kind of where eldest daughter, the symptoms and the side effects of eldest daughter syndrome kind of stem from. But parentification refers to the eldest daughter's tendency to take on parent-like roles. And there is some research on parentification, and it's shown that it's associated with a range of negative consequences, including increased anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and personality disorders. And it says, while it can help children become more efficient in terms of task management and school achievement, this can contribute to problems like compulsive overwork. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I will say, too, I find the concept of parentification in a household where in a divorced household, I think that it really has the potential to rear its ugly head. And I would say, like,
we have both seen it in our oldest daughters when they go to their dads.
Exactly. And I know
Madeline and Holland
it.
take on the mom role. And we do not tell them to, but they do.
They do. Absolutely. And for whatever reason, their dads just
let them do it.
Let them do it. But I know I would experience a little bit of it with my dad growing up when I was at his house. Like, I very rarely made dinner at my mom's house, but I would make dinner at my dad's house.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's like just weird stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about these signs or symptoms of eldest daughter syndrome. And I'm going to say there's a lot, if not all, that I could.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean,
resonated with me.
I was going to say, I was reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is Carolyn. And then I was like, oh, this explains a lot about my issues.
Well, and so there's a little overlap in some. But, okay, first one, you have an intense feeling of responsibility. Just a general feeling of responsibility for what's going on in your life, those around you, even, like, people that you come in contact with.
Yes.
You know, you just have this feeling of responsibility.
Yes.
That doesn't
It's
go
hard
away.
to turn it off.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, number 2, here we go. You are an overachiever, type A, and very driven. You may put pressure on yourself to achieve traditional markers of success, too, like being married by a certain age, having a high-paying job, or having children.
I read this one and I was like, this is Carolyn. This is absolutely Carolyn.
This is exactly me.
This one doesn't resonate with me as much, but I really was
This is
like,
me.
this is Carolyn to a T.
Yeah.
All right, number 3.
You worry a lot and probably have anxiety because of this feeling of responsibility that you carry. You have kind of a need for control.
Hi, it's me.
Yeah. And you worry about everyone else before yourself. So you just carry this level of responsibility that you feel comes with also this level of anxiety that you feel. I get that.
Okay, number 4. Again, I read this one and I was like, this is Carolyn. This is not me.
This is so me. You're afraid of getting in trouble or breaking the rules. You live in a near constant state of worry, pressure, or fear of making mistakes, or like people being mad at you.
I do
letting
not
people
like
down.
people being mad at me, but you know that I am much more like, hey, look, we're just going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission, and but I know you're like, ooh, I don't know about that. Although I will say,
I've gotten better at
you've
breaking
gotten
the rules.
much more lax about breaking the rules, and you've gotten like a little bit more of like a wild streak in you since we've been friends.
Yes.
I don't think it was my influence.
I think it's a positive influence you had on me. Yes, and I don't know. It's not because I don't know. I think it goes back to the perfectionism. But it also very much like I have a very strong sense of like you just do the right thing.
Yes,
You do the right thing, and it very much upsets me when others don't do the right thing.
yes,
And it like, yeah.
yes.
Anyway. Okay. You often feel guilt. You worry about letting people down. Okay, here we go. I think this is both of us. Maybe, yeah. You struggle with people-pleasing behaviors and boundaries. Here's an example. You say yes when you're overwhelmed just to avoid letting anyone down.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Which means you're putting somebody else's needs before your own. You're stretching yourself too thin. And then things like anxiety and
It
guilt
leads to
and
all these other
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it said one of the reasons that you may put others' needs before your own may be, and I thought this was really interesting, due to a deep-seated need to avoid conflict and keep others happy, sometimes at the expense of your own needs.
Yeah.
I get that. You
Yeah.
just want to keep everyone happy.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what I want. I just want to keep everyone happy and things rocking along.
Well, and someone once explained it to me from this perspective, because when you put it that way, I'm like, why would I do that to myself? So then she explained it to me. She was like, what you did was you learned early on that this was the way to stay safe. And so in a way, you should be like proud of yourself for being able to synthesize all of that from a young age to be like, this is what I need to do to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking
Safe
about like
spot mentally.
physical safety. Yeah. I mean like safe spot mentally, like
In a calm, safe
Yes.
space mentally.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So then along those lines, number 7 is you suppress emotions.
So I've talked about this several times with you in the South. And I mean, my mom, my grandmother, still me, like, doesn't matter what's going on inside your home. You put on that lipstick, you get dressed, and you go out of the house, and no one knows what's going on.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
you suppress, like, and that, to me, that's that's the type of emotional suppression. Like, you put on a good face, and you go out, and, you don't let on that all this other stuff's going on.
Yeah.
Which I'm trying to get better at at letting people in a little more when there is crap going
Stuff
on.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have a tendency to hide your own feelings and struggles, presenting a strong front for others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
Definitely
you can't let others down.
been there.
Yeah. Okay, number 8. This was really interesting to me. You have a difficult time in your adult relationships. Said the parentification that eldest daughters experience within their own families can carry over to adult relationships, including romantic relationships and friendships. It isn't uncommon for eldest daughters to take on a similar role of responsibility within their friend groups or within their partners. I think I kind of felt that within friend groups, like growing up.
Yeah.
Or with their partners. And it says eldest daughters need to be careful because they may find that they are drawn to people who rely on them for support or care.
Yeah.
And you don't want it. That has a tendency to kind of turn more one-sided where
Yeah.
you're just providing support or care. That's your main role.
Yeah. Well, 'cause that's a comfort, a place of comfort and familiarity. And so you have a tendency to lean into it. I mean, I've been there. I have absolutely been there.
And then you suppress your emotions because your role is support and care. And yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I never really thought about that.
I mean, I could really go pretty deep on like romantic relationships and what happens when you have eldest daughter syndrome and what not to do. I still can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what not to do.
What not to do.
Yes. So sideline with me for that if you are interested, but we're not going to, bog down the podcast with that today.
Okay, I found this one very interesting. You struggle with your identity. Girls may find themselves struggling to create an identity outside of the roles that they feel imposed on them by their families. It can make it hard to identify and pursue personal goals that are separate from their family's expectations. I get that.
I totally get that. And I will say that there have been times where I have been working on myself and I've expressed myself in different ways, like with boundaries with my family. And I've gotten pushback because that's not how they view me.
Yeah.
And so
that's not how you've presented yourself in the family.
Correct.
In the past.
And so diverging from that could be problematic.
Well, and this makes sense. Like you think about new mothers and, you go through a period where you kind of lose your sense of identity. Like,
yes.
What are you other than just a caretaker for this infant, Yes. So if a eldest daughter growing up feels this parentification, I mean, they kind of lose their sense of identity in a way too, just like a new mother somewhat.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, you're depressed or burned out. I think we have both had phases of this. You feel emotionally drained, unmotivated, or disconnected, especially when your efforts go unnoticed.
Yeah, I mean, if you are really leaning into that like caretaker role and then you're not getting credit for it, I mean, that burns you out.
Yeah, and this other one kind of falls into that. You may feel a lack of support, which can lead to loneliness and isolation. It says, eldest daughters often find themselves tasked with solving problems and caring for others on their own. Because they feel they need to be strong and self-resilient, they may struggle to ask for help when they need it. Hello. This can create feelings of isolation and loneliness and make it hard for them to get the support that they need. I definitely feel like the isolation, like, you know, and I've realized, like, my siblings have no idea how much I'm doing behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's more mentally behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
to make sure everything stays afloat and stays happy and goes the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, they don't know to acknowledge it because they don't know you're putting all this mental effort and anguish into
Yes.
things. But then, you know, they criticize a little something and you're like, what the hell? I've been working so hard on this, you know?
Exactly.
Like, it just makes you want to, like, totally disconnect.
Yes. Well, we both have brothers. And so I think there's also that just like the gender differences where they don't know and they don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just they have this expectation that is the role that we are going to play for them.
Well, we've taken it on so well.
Yes.
I mean, why would you, you know, why would they step up?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I felt a lot of these, but I felt very seen too. Okay, so what to do if you feel symptoms of eldest daughter syndrome?
I mean, I'm going to skip right to the end of this list here. Consider therapy.
Yeah.
Just do it. Do therapy.
I agree. Okay, so one of the suggestions, this psychologist in an article that I read said, and I can't decide how I feel about this.
Oh, I have thoughts on this.
The
yes.
single most important thing, he said, the single most important thing you can do to cope with being the eldest daughter is to let go of the need to have your family see your reality.
Yes.
Like let go of you wanting or you having an internal need for them to recognize all that you're doing and
Yes.
how much you're doing for the family. And I couldn't decide how I felt about that.
Well, okay, so I don't know that I don't love that concept, but I did have a therapist once say to me, look, we were talking about a specific relationship in my family, and and she said, you have two choices. She's like, you can either be the person who fuels the relationship to make it what you want it to be, or you can accept it for what it is. And at the time I had an infant. And I was like, I don't have the energy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to find a way to accept it for what it is. And I feel like this is probably what this therapist is getting at, is that like you have the potential to completely exhaust yourself trying to get your family to understand what you're doing and appreciate it and accept it and value it the way that you want it to be valued. Instead, either let it go or have it come from a place of like, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Okay. I like it when you reframe it. I think he could have worked on his wording a little better.
He's a man. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, work on setting strong boundaries and learn how to assert your needs when those boundaries get crossed.
We have an episode on boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody wants to go back and listen to it, I highly recommend it. And you can also listen to how I really had a come to Jesus moment during that episode. It's hard. Yeah. Boundaries are hard.
Especially with family.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. I distinctly remember kind of like the first time feeling like I had to set some boundaries. And it was when I had very little kids and it was around the holidays.
Yes.
And I just had to be like, we're not doing this.
Yes.
We're not doing, like,
yes.
This is what's best for us. But it feels really awkward and kind of like jarring, and you're kind of scared to tell the extended family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also think too, the part that is hard to explain in that instance, or really with boundaries, in general with family is that, look, you can accept my boundary for what it is, or you can get a version of me at whatever this function is that is going to be really unpleasant for everybody. And that's not like a thinly veiled threat.
Yeah.
It is truly like I will
Here's
show
the
up and
reality.
do what you want, but it is not going to
be
go
what
well
you're
for
wanting.
you. It's not actually what you want.
Yeah.
So.
Good point. Okay, I'll this third one is is good. Differentiate between independence and excessive self-reliance. I'm still working on doing that, but so your sense of independence that eldest daughters gain is a strength, but it also is a hindrance when it leads to you becoming so self-reliant that you don't ask for help or you don't accept help when it's offered.
Yep.
We are both guilty of this because, like, we're very much, you know what? I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything because it's just easier to do myself.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that this is a great differentiation, or it's an important differentiation.
Yeah.
Well,
and it said consider situations where you might be taking on too much and look for opportunities to get help and nurturing from others. So I have learned that sometimes maybe it's not necessarily help I need, but it's the emotional support, the nurturing that I need.
Yes.
While I do the task or whatever it is.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day and I said, sometimes I just need someone to hold the bucket, hold the trash can so I can just word vomit.
But that
and
involves...
I also want to be the trash can holder. Maybe don't make me help you. Let me just hold the trash can for you.
Yeah.
But
so are we kind of just like trash can holders for each other?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things about our friendship. You hold the trash can while I vomit, and I hold the trash can while you vomit. Although I'm pretty sure I do a lot more word vomiting than you do.
I don't know. But, in order for this to work, in order for the word vomiting to work, you have to let another person in.
Yes.
To know what's going on.
Exactly.
And that is one thing that you have really helped me do.
Probably because I have an oversharing problem when it comes to you.
You have to find a safe space.
True. Very true.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then sometimes I hate this recommendation.
Yeah, no,
Practice
I don't like this
self-compassion and self-care.
You know what?
I mean...
And that's why we go to therapy.
Yeah. Let's just, skip that one. Just go to therapy.
Yeah. So, to recognize the men and the boys, there is a concept of an eldest son syndrome or oldest child syndrome. But when I read about, now that we've talked about all the way that the females have their oldest daughter syndrome, with males, it ends up being a little bit more stereotypically what you would expect, driven for leadership, driven for financial success, that kind of how they show up. It's more of a professional, expression than it is
parentification.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I feel very seen.
I do too. And you know what? I really, while all the credit should not go to Taylor Swift, I do appreciate the fact that she wrote a song, she gave it that title, and now people are talking about it. So that, guess what? When we're at a party and we talk about being the oldest in our families, people are like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. I see you.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of, I'm sitting here thinking, the eldest daughter is a lot of work behind the scenes and no one knows. A lot of mental work. And anguish behind the scenes and anxiety and stressing and no one has any idea.
Yeah. Yep.
And feeling of responsibility. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, especially with the holidays.
Yeah. Holidays, I feel like eldest daughter syndrome comes to a head.
Oh, yeah. It does.
Yeah. And it doesn't always end pretty.
No. But thank you for researching this.
Yeah. This
was awesome. And
yeah. Thank you, T. Swift.
Exactly. Until next week.
Bye.
Thank Thank you so much for joining us for the Happy Eating Podcast. I'm Brierley Horton.
And I'm Carolyn Williams. If you liked this week's episode, then don't forget to rate and leave us a review on iTunes. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a new episode.
We can't wait to have you back at our table next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
The contents discussed in the Happy Eating Podcast, such as advice, studies, text, graphics, images, and other material discussed or presented on the site or podcast, are for informational purposes only. Content is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Happy Eating Podcast.
If you are in crisis or think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 8255, to talk to a skilled, trained counselor at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.